So we build our model on the actual pitch measurements. We examine real-world stadium geometry, because every stadium has its touchline, its pitch dimensions. We can't ignore it. Everything in parallel to make the result seamless. As it is, we fill the ground with all possible variety of objects. We call them props. Stuff such as bottles, bags, cameras, everything that makes the stadium come alive. We also work on the people, the personnel you can see in the stadium during any match. We set up crowds, supporters, fans, so we basically help the ground to look more realistic and lifelike. Secondly, it's the lighting. We make the arena look natural through adjusting and tuning the lights. We set up the overall stadium lighting and post-processing, and other components related to the overall vibe. From the construction, often the shadows on the pitch depend on the roof design and material. Sometimes they are translucent, or they can have some peculiar shapes. And there can be various other effects.
Samples?
All the fans in the stadium to begin with. We dress them, starting with hats, snapbacks, then there's bomber jackets. There are around 18 forms, all unique. We don't paint them out unlike our competitors. Okay, is it okay if I say that?
Sure.
Well, our competitors did it in a simple way. But we decided to stand out, really. I don't know why. Just go in and win this race. Hence, they're visually attractive and fit in nicely into the game. That is, if we take London Stadium as an example. It is very detailed. There's a lot of construction structures. It has a sophisticated roof. There's also another thing to consider. When we work on historic iconic grounds, these are stadiums with a visible imprint of time. Their materials are tricky. Say the concrete there can be damp, cracked, or crumbling at some places. The structures of all the footage made during the matches on each stadium. Our goal is to find out where exactly you can find personnel on match days. Then we combine those with our vision. If we couldn't find something in the references, we add our own input. How many security guards, first responders, and others, and where. Actually, it is very interesting, a really fabulous generation trick. We definitely generate the supporters' faces automatically. It's created a great tool called Crowd Mesh. Here are some kind of panels, and you can see some tiny dots called vertices. We place these dots around the stadium. And judging the position of each vertex, generate a chair for a fan to sit on. Here are those chairs. So first, there are chairs. And then by a special data set, we generate a crowd of supporters. We place personnel by hand. So here goes some police. We have a kind of drag and drop. But there is some variability. When we move them, they change their appearances. Naturally, you can change it by hand, but we've added this variability to avoid adding similar sets of people. So the people crowd mesh, but we divide them by groups. Here are home fans, those are visitors, and here's some VIP. And this way, they appear quite randomly, depending on a stadium and sectors we need to fill. It's a masterpiece in terms of architecture. The shape is beautiful, it's designed brilliantly, and the atmosphere for everyone inside is great. We were so heavily into this, we created everything and civic things while watching the videos or examining other references. For example, at a Vodafone, there's a lot of security guards, and we try to reproduce and bring them into action. At other stadiums, we are often helped by our available only in those arenas. For example, at London Stadium, there are machines blowing soap bubbles all over the stadium. We add them too. Grid. Don't worry, it's fine. Okay, light.
You also do lighting. I'd love to have a look, because it's something very dear to me as a person from video production.
I can tell you about lighting more technically. Okay, so let's talk about lighting. For the main direction and main positioning of the floodlights and highlights, we used references to the stadiums, of course. But there are many different technical difficulties to overcome because we should have been directing the lights from those lamps. Lights are fake. For these cases, we needed an inventive artistic approach. We have to emulate things. If I reveal how the night lights work, it might make you sick, since it looks more or less like this without it. All the lights up in the stands have been faked to the extent that it looks very close to what happens. So what we have here is a dramatic convention like a film set. And they look so realistic, so cool, that hopefully nobody would even think to wonder if it's fake.
Декорации, театральные условности, которые выглядят настолько реально и круто, что никто, наверное, бы и не понял.
Correct?
Yeah, and here's how it looks if you were curious.
I should have asked that earlier.
Да, все это, конечно,
But
по настройкам
yes, they have got lots of purposes. It emulates lighting around the stadium and all the different floodlights reflecting off the pitch.
стадиона, которая нам имитирует свет от прожекторов, отскакивающий от поля.
Those are full of things you're not really aware of. For instance, the lighting systems are unique. The location of VIP officers, say, from the Netherlands or from France, but with a twist. Of course, I never copied their uniform. We had our own take on them. It's like originally we created lots of different sets, but then we realized the engine was going to blow up, so now we have just one. Currently, we have just one cop, but the first sketches. So we drew him from scratch. And instead of a youth, we got a young elder. A 13-year-old guy with wrinkles, and he was dressed like a beggar.